Hey, hope everyone's having a pleasant evening. We are driving our 2015 Passat TDI 6-speed manual SE with the black and tan interior trim, not leather seats, the fake leather, which actually is better than the leather in our opinion, at least in the VW. We're driving this for the first time in a while, and it's had some issues, and we're getting them looked at and getting them worked on. We had a slow leak in one of the tires, and these tires have almost 5 years on them and close to 70,000 miles, so we're about to get new ones anyway. But we had to get a tire pressure or slow leak on the tire looked at. We're having to fix a couple of bulbs, like a DRL light bulb and a corner marker light bulb. Back during the winter, we got the heater core replaced, which is a known issue in these diesel VWs because apparently the EGR system cooks the coolant and makes it so hot that it degrades, and it creates like sediment in the system, and the sediment builds up in the heater core and makes it to where it can't actually pull heat out of the coolant and exchange it into the interior of the car. So you got no heat in this thing, and in Michigan in the dead of winter you need a car with heat. So we had that done, and the dealer originally didn't want to pay for it, even though the engine is still under the Dieselgate warranty. But our colleague who was driving it at the time had a one-way conversation with them, and she made it understood that we were not paying for that, and so we got a new heater core put in for free. We've had the timing belt done, and that was a while ago. That was at around 80 or 90,000 miles, and it's before the official interval, but it was just making a little bit of noise, and it didn't sound good, and so our mechanic did the timing belt and water pump, a little bit on the early side. And so this car has had a decent amount of work done. In terms of the total miles, the odometer, it's at like 137, give or take. And it hasn't needed all the work that these cars sometimes need, like, you know, the dual mass flywheel, and it hasn't blown a turbo, and it hasn't needed like serious work done on it, mechanically at least. But again, the timing belt and water pump we had done early, and the heater core we had done by the dealer for free. And that might be it as far as serious maintenance. A couple of bulbs we still got to get to. The passenger mirror glass delaminated, and so we got a new one of those. Just came in today. We're going to put it on tomorrow. But in the course of getting the slow leak fixed in one of our tires, which wasn't actually a puncture, it was like a little bit of corrosion that had built up on the rim, and it was compromising the bead, the integrity of the bead. Even though it's an alloy rim, it's not a steel rim, it still does get corrosion. We had to reset the TPMS light, and it turns out with these cars, as you probably know from the history on them, when VW made the Passat that came out in whatever it was, 2012, they took out a lot of content, and they sort of cheaped out in a lot of areas on it. Not quite to where you can tell blatantly, but they did a lot of cost cutting on these cars. And one of the cheap features that this thing has is called an indirect TPMS. It's not an actual TPMS sensor, a tire pressure monitoring system sensor in each wheel. It actually uses the ABS wheel speed sensors to determine like the relative wheel speed. And if it starts to notice like a history of one of the wheels rotating at like more RPMs than the other three wheels, it will just assume that the reason why it's rotating more is because it's the radius on that wheel is starting to go down a little bit, because the pressure in the tire is starting to go down a little bit. And because the pressure is going down, the effective radius between the center of the wheel and the ground level is going down. And so, you know, a smaller radius means more RPMs to go the same road speed, if that makes any sense. And so based on that, it'll you know, the TPMS light will come on. Again, if it thinks you're starting to lose pressure in one of your tires based on the relative wheel RPMs. If you can follow that. And it'll make your TPMS light come on. And again, we had the tire fixed last night, but when we got the car back from the Costco Tire Center, which is what we use for the most part, the TPMS light was back on. And as we just came to find out tonight, the way you fix your TPMS light, once they've fixed the slow leak in the tire, the way you fix it with the engine running is you go here in the glove compartment, and it says set. And then you look up there, if you can see it, and it's another button up there that says set. And there's another one there, and I think that locks your trunk release or whatever, like in valet mode. But that one right there, you got to hold that down to reset your TPMS light. And it's a little bit annoying because you wouldn't think that you'd need to do an entirely different step just to reset your TPMS light. Like it should know based on the wheel RPMs that you've fixed the problem. But for some reason, this car doesn't just know that and doesn't, you know, take the hint that you've made the fix. And so you got to do that separate step again of finding that button with the engine running and holding it down. Again, it's not clear why you should need to do that, because the ABS wheel speed sensors should just say, okay, all right, all the wheels are turning at the same RPMs now, everything's good, and turn the stupid light off. But for some reason they don't, and unless you know about it, you're not going to know to dig around in the glove box and find that button and hit it. So it's a little bit of a redundant thing. But overall, I got to say, this car is 10 years old now. Almost 140,000 miles, has not needed major work done on it. And it's just holding up great. We got some scratches on the finish. There's no rust coming in like on the wheel wells or anything. You know, the kind of place like on a Honda where you'd start to see rust coming in. Like typically on a Honda, you see rust right there between the that bumper assembly and between the rear fenders. Don't have that. Got some scratches on it here and there. And again, we had the passenger mirror delaminate. We got a couple little nicks in the paint, and you see rust starting to form there, so we're gonna have to get that sanded and repainted. But overall, again, for a 10-year-old car, it looks great. And it still runs great. We've towed, we had to move our boat when we got to a new, moved to a new location. And we towed our, I don't know, 3,500 pound Bayliner with this thing. It was only about 15, 20, 25 miles. And we only drove it at about 55 miles an hour, but it did just fine. Something you should not do with a DSG, with the automated transmission, tow any serious amount of weight. But again, a great car. And these things are turning into classics because, you know, VW stopped making them in 2015. Once the Dieselgate scandal hit, and everybody started dumping their diesel VWs, because they were so angry that VW was cheating on the emissions. And so if you were smart, around that time frame, 2015-16, there were some excellent deals to be had on practically new diesel VWs. And the first one we had was a DSG automatic, or automated manual, or double clutch, or what do they call it? Dual clutch. And that car ran great. We ran it for 2.5 years, put a ton of miles on it, and then VW bought it back for more than double what we had paid for it. It was a 2014. We got it in 2016 for like 11,000 bucks, with that DSG transmission. And believe it or not, the DSG really is the better transmission, at least for the diesel engine. because the diesel engine doesn't have a lot of juice. It's not like, it's only 150 horsepower, and it's all the power you need, but it's not going to be the kind of thing you're going to redline and rev the piss out of. And the manual, it feels like you're driving a delivery truck with the manual transmission. It's just not like a pleasure to run it through the gears. Like I said, it's more like running a delivery truck in terms of like it's you know, the power band and all that kind of thing. But the DSG transmission is the perfect transmission for the diesel, and it shifts so fast. It shifts in like less than a 50th of a second in terms of shifting gears, just because of the way the two clutches work. Like one of the clutches works for first, third, and fifth gear. The other clutch works for second, fourth, and sixth. And so it's constantly trading off between which clutch is active. And it does that very, very, very fast. Some people say it's not quite as reliable as the manual, which makes sense, because the only thing in the manual that's ever going to wear out is the clutch. And if you know how to drive it and you go easy on it, you can get the clutch to last for 200,000, 250,000 miles, no big deal. And if you ever have to replace it, it's like $1,000 job. If you ever have to replace the DSG, if that thing takes a crap on you, that's a very, very expensive job. So again, bottom line, we couldn't be happier with this car. The 2015, which had the upgraded engine called the CVCA, and it was the first and last year for that engine, because right when they started making it, all of a sudden it got revealed that they were cheating on the emissions, so they had to stop making it and take it out of production. So there aren't a lot of 2015s out there, and there's even less 2015s with the manual, which it's not the most fun transmission for this engine, but it's probably the longest lasting transmission. And you definitely get better MPGs. Like, we routinely get 50 miles to the gallon on the highway driving the manual. It's a little bit taller gearing. You're at like 2,000, 2,200 RPMs when you're going 75 or 80 miles an hour. And the DSG, the automatic, was always at like 26 or 2,700 RPMs at like 70, 75, 80 miles an hour. So the DSG had a lot shorter gearing. The manual has a lot taller gearing, meaning lower numerically. So you're gonna be lower in the RPMs and get much, much better miles to the gallon on the highway. Again, like easily cruising at 80 miles an hour on the interstate like we did today. We drove like 4 hours today with this thing, and we had no trouble getting 50 miles to the gallon, which is insane MPGs. In our other Passat automatic, the Passat, I should say DSG, we got 750 miles on a tank of fuel once, on a tank of diesel. It drove all the way from Boston to Southeast Michigan. Absolutely amazing driving range. But anyway, long story short, that TPMS light, like I said, the car does not actually have TPMS sensors in the wheels. It just uses the ABS wheel speed sensors to determine if one of the wheels is spinning faster than the other three. You know, when you're going on level ground in a straight direction. And based on the relative speed difference, it'll eventually come on and alert you to go get your tires looked at. And then after it's come on and you get your tires fixed, you're going to need to manually turn the light off, or reset it, I should say. For some reason known only to the German engineers who made this car. All right, thanks again. Hope you all are having a great summer so far. It's been very, very hot out here in Michigan. Yesterday we had the hottest day in 5 years. It was like 98 degrees. No big deal. Anyway, good talking to you all, and we will catch you later. Thanks.